actually started out as one piece of music called Messenger. And I wrote Messenger for an art night at my church. My pastor was preaching through the book of Malachi, and he invited all the artists to come together and create a piece of art based on Malachi. And I'd been working on a lot of other music, so I thought, oh, this is a wonderful opportunity for me to write something shorter and just kind of see how it goes. So I wrote Messenger and performed it with 3 vocalists and then myself at the piano at my church. And it was just incredible to see how in such a short amount of time, that was in January of 2016, and by September of 2016 we had a full recording of it with the City of Prague Philharmonic and professional vocalists, and that was just amazing for me to see it come to life. After that, I kind of thought that would be it, that okay, Messenger on its own, but Brian actually had an idea that the story isn't finished.
Yeah.
So what was your idea?
Well, it actually happened, if you remember, on the drive home
Yes.
from Indianapolis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were just kind of just kind of enjoying the process and just thinking through the whole message of Messenger. And it just felt a little incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
We thought, wow, there's more to this story. Yes, it's great that a messenger was foretold, but where does that lead? It really is part of the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
There was the prophecy of the messenger, but then the messenger did come.
Mm-hmm.
But the messenger is still coming.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought, boy, if we could put those 3 aspects together, that would form a complete trilogy, a whole. Messenger, Messiah, and Majesty. I think your mom actually came up with the third one.
Yeah. I was thinking, okay, what portions of scripture do I focus on for these last 2? And this thread of Moses and Elijah just blew my mind, because you have it in Malachi. He refers to the law of Moses and the coming of Elijah. So Moses and Elijah are there. Then you go to the transfiguration that's recorded in the Synoptic Gospels, and you see Moses and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration. And then you have in Revelation, chapter 11, the account of the 2 witnesses. They're not named. However, it's commonly believed that those witnesses are Moses and Elijah. So I found that extremely fascinating. And in all 3 of these scriptures, Christ is revealed in glory, and there's this, I know I referred to this before, but the kindness and severity of God, just these 2 sides that together makes up the beauty that is Christ. So once I had completed writing the last 2 pieces, Messiah and Majesty, I transcribed the piano music and the music for the 3 soloists, and I sent that on to David Clydesdale, the arranger, for the next step of the process.
My name is David Clydesdale, and I was the orchestrator arranger on Kingdom. Now what that means is Anna would give me the music, just the piano part and the solo parts, and it was my job to figure out what an 85-piece symphony orchestra would play with this arrangements, and also write the choir parts, and then I would conduct it. Now we did the first part of the musical, Messenger, 1 year. It was only about 18 minutes long, and Anna didn't go with us at that time. We just did it while we were recording other projects. I do remember when my wife Celeste was there, her saying, "This is so different than anything else you've ever done." I've never said this to Anna before, but there's a little bit of Les Mis meets Phantom of the Opera, which meets Star Wars, which meets Ben-Hur. I mean, kind of her style really is very theatrical and very dramatic. Then we decided that went so well, we came back the next year with the next 2 sections, which was Messiah and Majesty, and put those all together. But this time she got to come over and watch the project, so I think it was really kind of exciting to her to see what would happen.
Coming from a performance background, I'm used to, groups preparing and practicing, and then they perform the entire work. And what I learned is that that's not how it works when you're recording. that the orchestra actually records in very small portions, and they never actually play through the whole piece of music. They'll play through a small portion, and you'll kind of keep doing that until you nail it, and then you move on to the next portion. And you'll also do, maybe a pass with strings only, and the rest of the instruments will sit out. So it was very interesting to see how that works. That's so much different than if you're just preparing for performance.
There are some innate challenges in working in Prague.
Yeah.
One is obviously it's halfway around the world. You have to fly to Europe to go there. But the benefits are that you get a much larger orchestra. However, when you get there, you realize that the studio's set up with a room completely separate. You really can't even see the orchestra as they're playing. So they have a television monitor through which you see, and then you have to communicate without a visual connection with the conductor.
Not everybody knows. Please, we've got to make sure everybody is bar number. Vědí všichni, že ťuká 117.
Well, the problem is there's clarinet solo.
That's
You know what, David, before we get to the next piece, could you come in just for a second? I want you to listen to a bar. I just want to make sure it's right. John, could you go back to bar 103? I just want to make sure that everything's accurately played in there. It just flags my ear every time.
That was.
Could you just make sure these parts are accurate?
I'll play 100.
Just play 100. Here's 100.
The viola notes are wrong.
That's it. Yeah.
So what is that note in viola clef? Because the harp is doing that thing with the A natural. Or maybe it's
the wrong note, obviously. Yeah.
Well, it's got to be. What bar is it? 100.
And on top of that, there's a language barrier, and so we have to hire a translator to work through a translator. And so, not only do we have to communicate with the arranger about a particular take, whether it's passable or not.
Right.
We have to communicate the specific problem with a specific take, and then that has to be communicated to the translator, and that goes to the orchestra via the translator.
So, and then it can go back at 112 to being a little more legato.
But it's a fascinating process.
It is very fascinating.
And somehow it all comes together into a beautiful finished product.
Something so familiar, a cloudy memory. What is it about your face that makes me think that I have heard this message? This isn't something new. Tell me once again why God is sending you.
Majesty, King of Kings, He will come in glory. Judgment He will bring. Majesty, His kind severity will damn the proud destructor, reward the righteous saint.
We We actually recorded the vocals in a couple different places. Since Messenger was recorded first, we did those vocals in Nashville, and then Messiah and Majesty, we actually recorded the vocals at Gaither Studios in Indianapolis. And that's, again, very similar to the orchestra, where the singers are never just singing the song straight through. They never do that. It's, again, in very small portions. And especially with the choral part, you know, we'll have several singers, and in order to really give it that full choral effect, we didn't actually have a full chorus, but we record several passes so that it just has a really full sound. So again, it was really interesting to see that process, and same with the soloists, even just to see the level of musicianship and being able to sing these solos just right off the bat. You know, they don't practice ahead of time, they just kind of read them, and that's really amazing as well, and just fun to work with the different soloists and seeing their own, I guess, flavor, creativity that they bring to their part.
And then the decisions have to be made about what soloist fits the part. And that's an art and a challenge in and of itself, because you can have a fantastic singer, but they might not fit the part that you wrote, and you had some specific ideas of what you wanted for each soloist.
Yeah. Brent Henderson is a vocalist from Indianapolis who sang the part of the Beast. And when you listen to that, it's like, oh my goodness, yes, you are the Beast.
Of these two witnesses who dare to stand against my power.
So yeah, it was really fun to see those different people come together and kind of fill these roles and characters that I had in my head. So that was really enjoyable.
Yeah. And then at the end of the vocal session, you think, oh, we're finally done, but yet there's one more step to go.
Yes.
And that's really an art in and of itself.
Yeah.
And that's the mix.
So the mixing process, it's basically what you take what you've recorded, whether it's at a recording studio or a scoring stage, and you take it back to the studio. And there's quite a few things that you do to make them sound sweeter and hotter. A lot of times it's balancing. If one section is a little hotter than the other one, you can make them so that they sound a bit equal. You can also determine which microphones you use, because you record an orchestra close with mics right in front of it, but also mics farther away. So you'll balance out those ones to determine, I like how it sounds more roomy during this section or close during this section. There's also a lot of processing that happens with such things as compressors and paraband equalization and reverb if you get that far, but it's basically just making them sound sweeter, making them pop out of the mix. And this project was unique specifically because it was produced in several different locations. It wasn't at one place. We did the orchestra in Prague, and then of course the vocals were done in Indianapolis. And here now in Michigan, we just did the piano and the harp. So it was very much a multi-session place from different satellite locations. So the trick has been consistency, trying to make sure the same mics were used, the same positioning, so that when they're all brought into the same session, that it doesn't sound like it was recorded all over the world. So then it was a challenge, because every different engineer has his own way of doing things, and I would get a few files from one of them and they didn't match up with the other guy. So there was a lot of just engineering and making sure everything was facing the same direction in the first place. So our first challenge is just to get everything in the same session. And the session template is huge. There's about, I think, 65 tracks in each one. And so just getting everything in there was the first step. I'm excited about Anna's project largely because she's taken the time to do something more organic and take the time to do it the right way with an actual orchestra, instead of just, well, we'll just use synthesizers here and there. Like, this has been real painstaking to be done the right way. And it's not just simply her project that I'm interested in, but what her project represents in the current musical culture, where everything is done fast and quick and synthetically, that it was done something organically. And we've taken great pains to make as much, almost, I'd say 98% of this is real instrumentation. I think that that's making a comeback. I think a lot of people are interested in seeing the process of an actual physical piece of wood that you use with your hand instead of just a computer program. I was really excited that she's doing it, and I personally am very passionate about seeing those things pushed as far as they can go. And because she's a part of something like that, I wanted to help be a part of it too.
Now that we're finished with this work and we have the recording and we're able to celebrate the release in November 2017, now it's like, what's next and what do you want to do with it? And for me, as the composer, I really see this as a performance piece, that it's meant to be performed live with a full choir and a full orchestra and 9 soloists. So that's really my desire, is to see places perform this. So we have this recording. That's wonderful. I hope people listen to it, but now I hope that people would take it upon themselves to do this work, and also just to sing this truth, to proclaim the truth of this magnificent narrative.
And the interesting thing about this is, as talented as everybody is in the process, it took the Lord's giftedness through you to birth this project, and you have an amazing gift. And everyone who contributed to this project brought just a lifetime of learning and study to this. But the reality is, if it doesn't get performed, it just sits on a shelf, and that's where you can come in. We hope that this will be performed over and over and over again. And it could be performed as simply as 3 soloists, and they could download the track and just sing with the track if they don't have a live orchestra. Or they can do it just with piano, because there'll be a piano transcription that they can use. Or dream big, do a community chorus, or performance at your church and invite an orchestra to come and play. It needs to be performed. It needs to have life. As you said, the truth of kingdom truly needs to be heard, especially in this day and age.